Hey there, guys and gals of the interwebs land. I don't say YouTube land, but who knows how long I'll be on YouTube before they ban me. Remember, you can always find all my videos also on Library TV, lbry.tv. Just look for Jack Spirko over there, and every video I put on YouTube ends up over there. And hey, you can throw me some LBC coin while you're at it if you like what I'm doing. So today I wanted to talk to you guys again about getting out of these flashpoint cities, and it's occurred to me a couple things. Maybe I haven't, based on some comments I've got, maybe I haven't been clear enough when I say flashpoint cities. I didn't say every city everywhere in the world. I said these flashpoint cities, so we're going to talk about that today. But I guess I haven't really talked about enough in the videos. I guess that I do most of my videos for people who have listened to my podcast for a while. And many people that have listened to my podcast, we're top 10 philosophy podcast on iTunes. We have 250,000 downloads. A huge audience of people who don't bother watching videos or things like that. They just listen to the daily podcast, and that's who I'm accustomed to speaking to. So a lot of things that maybe I should say in a video, I feel like have already been said. So what I haven't really talked about a lot is getting out of the cities, and specifically the flashpoint cities, to what end? Like how, where, why, and what goes with this. So what I'm calling today's video is a new look at Galt's Gulch. And what I want to start out with is explaining that Galt's Gulch isn't what a lot of people thought it was. But what a lot of people think it is maybe what it needs to be now. So what people think of when they hear Galt's Gulch is like, well, all the productive people go away and do their own thing in some sort of libertopia land or something like that. That's not what Galt's Gulch was at all. Galt's Gulch started from a simple presence. What if all the productive people, the true geniuses, left? They can go somewhere else and set up shop and start doing stuff somewhere else. They left, basically took their ball and went home, wherever the hell home was. And all of the great makers, all of the great doers, all the great visionaries just quit for a time. Basically, it was a strike. We ain't doing shit. And I think if you're trying to make a political point and you're writing a work of fiction, it's a fine way to do it. That's why it's endured for so long. That's why so many people today that fancy themselves libertarians or anarchists or voluntarists or agorists tend to look very fancifully at the concept of a Galt's Gulch and who is John Galt, and see themselves as a John Galt, because John Galt was not supposed to represent just one man, but all of the people who are productive, saying, you know what, you want to tax us, regulate us, and make us miserable? Fine, screw off, we'll leave. Good luck on your own. That's not what I'm talking about, though a lot of people are referring to this mass exodus from these big cities, these flashpoint cities, these Democrat-run cities, as a new Galt's Gulch. I think it can be, but then we have to redefine what a Galt's Gulch is. And I think what a lot of people think is, well, all the Galt's Gulch people go to one place and they make something new. I think that in our country, one of the most amazing gifts that we have is that you can live anywhere from the tropics to the tundra. And with the freedom of movement within a republic, you can choose the type of place that you live in. And I think the idea of everybody going to one place is an idea from the 1950s and 60s, when it's what was necessary for people to collaborate and work together. Right now, you guys are watching this. Some of you are watching it clear across the country from me, but some of you are watching it clear across the world. I know we have listeners and viewers from Australia and the UK and China, right? Wherever people in China can find me, or I'm not banned or whatever. Right? We have people that use backdoor networks to watch us in China. I know that we have been shared among working crews in Iraq and Afghanistan. I know that from soldiers who have emailed me from overseas, and from contractors who've emailed me overseas and said that, like in one instance, there was a Iraqi work crew that had one guy on the crew that spoke English, and every day at lunch, the workers would listen to my podcast, and that one worker would translate what I was saying to this work crew of Iraqi workers. It was pretty humbling to get that email. And so what all that means to me, though, is this idea of Galt's Gulch being some sort of libertopia is probably not needed. What we need are hundreds of more free places. I'm not a big believer in the dichotomy. I get a lot of shit for that. I tell you guys all the time, you're not going to get me to fall in with the Republicans or whatever. I see the state as inherent evil. Inherent evil. And I'm telling you right now, if we lived in a society that was stateless or close to stateless, where scum were not protected from good people, then shit like Portland and Seattle and Kenosha would not be able to happen, at least not for long. Because people like me would drop the hammer. The reason I'm telling you not to is because you live in a place where you can't do it. Like, you can't kid up, become one of the Boogaloo Boys, go off to Portland and start dropping the hammer on Antifa. You can't do it. You can't be successful doing it anyway. You can be successful at dropping the hammer. You can't get the objective that you want. I talked recently about Sun Tzu's Art of War and attacking the enemy's strategy. Part of attacking the enemy's strategy is having a solid strategy for your objective. So instead of, I want to go out and beat the enemy down, what do I want? So with this concept of a new Gulch, that's what I'd like you to ask yourself today. What do you want? What do you want? And let me explain some things. Just because you want something doesn't mean you can have it. So you better be very specific as to what you actually want instead of what you emotionally want. A lot of you emotionally want, well, I want New York and LA and Seattle and Portland and Chicago to be well-run and well-ordered cities. I want them, I had a guy today tell me on my blog, well, you know, the way we can revolt is we get everybody to vote Republican in these cities. You're an idiot. These cities have been Democrat for 70, 100 years. The Orange Man's probably going to win re-election. That's probably going to be a net positive for the country over the next couple of years, even though we're in deep financial shit. We really are. But Portland's not going to flip frickin' Republican. Seattle's not going to flip Republican. LA's not going to flip Republican. That's just not going to happen. And the people leaving, if there's anybody that was going to either already vote Republican or flip Republican in those places, they're the ones leaving. That means it's a net loss, right? I'm telling you to leave because the other people that think like you already left. They're already gone. They're the F out of here. You understand that? The boat is sinking into complete liberal lunacy, and all of your allies are getting in the lifeboats, and they're not rowing away. They've got freaking outboards, baby, and they're hauling ass to a new place. I'm suggesting that you might want to join them under a new concept of Gulch. So even though I don't believe in the dichotomy, I don't believe in the dichotomy because I have no faith in the state. It's not because I don't have faith in people. The state, whatever it is in any given location, and in our republic we have a multi-layered state. It's like an onion state. You have the super state, which is the federal government. You have the state, as in the sovereign state within the republic, Florida, Georgia, Texas, whatever, right? You have that state, then within the super state. Then you have a county, and then you have a city, a town, or some sort of apportioned other component. You have this multi-layered state. And then some of you are retards, complete morons, so you feel like, gee, I've got a federal government, I've got a state government, I got a county government, and I got a city government. I need more government. So then you add yet another layer of government to your life called a homeowners association. And if you are pro homeowners association, do me a favor. Stay the fuck out of my backyard. I do not want you around here. And my neighbors and I have agreed that if somebody tries to start a homeowners association around here, they're going to disappear. Got it? We don't want one. Now, that should set up the concept of how do you find a place that gives you what you want. If you like HOAs, go somewhere where they already have those and be part of one. Don't try to bring your shit here. But when we look at this dichotomy, there is a valid point to it. There's a valid point to the dichotomy. It reveals to you how the people think. Just because the state is going to do what the state does, which is grow, increase, and amass power and take liberty, doesn't mean that the people that believe in the dichotomy, that vote for it, don't show you, in the words of their joker, who they really are. Democrats want the state to give them a solution. Republicans, voters, not politicians, generally are saying, let us be our own solution. So when you go to a state that's been run by Democrats for 50 years, and within that state you choose a city that's been run by Democrats for 100 years, what you're doing is you're surrounding yourself with people who believe the state is the solution to your problems. If you also believe the state is the solution to your problems, that is probably a good place for you to go. The rest of us wish you would go there and stay the hell away from us and go create your version of what you want within this grand republic over there and leave us the hell alone. And please understand, some of you that's what you want, that keep on expanding like a giant zit on the face of the planet, your urban shitholes. We are getting really close, people like me, and there's millions of us. We are getting really close from switching from leave us alone to fuck around and find out. If we're going to have that attitude, though, guys, of fuck around and find out, then it behooves us to put ourselves in a position where we have at least attempted to have what we want without taking what other people want. In these shithole cities, in these flashpoint cities like Seattle, like Portland, the majority of the people want exactly what they have. You have no more right to take it from them than they have a right to take it from you. We live in a republic with freedom of movement between the states, the cities, the counties. You don't need any paperwork to go well, maybe with COVID, but outside of that, if you live in Maine and you want to move to California, no one has a checkpoint along the way for you to make that move. You can be anywhere you want. So what I think the new Gulch needs to be is that we all move to places with people who already think like us. And voting, I don't find to be much in the way of a solution, because I think all it does is reveal to you the people's propensity where they live. However, that is a gift. That is a gift. When you look at a place, and that place is voted Democrat for 70 years, and that place's quality of life has done this for 70 years, and unwaveringly, people have continued to put Democrats in office with policies that create this effect on their quality of life, it's not going to change. You're not going to move there and change that, okay? You can move there and be part of it and be miserable because it's not what you want. Or you can look at the way that people vote and you can see that in this place, quality of life is pretty good. Quality of life has continued to improve. And then we get a double gift. Not only can we look at how people voted, actually we got a triple gift this year, and two of them seem really bad. We got the riots. You know, I'm a prepper. I teach prepping. If you don't want to learn prepping, probably don't want to hang out with me, because I'm going to teach you how to do this and feed your family. During all the shortages in COVID, we didn't give a shit. We didn't care because we could feed ourselves. This is behind me. It's one example of how we feed ourselves. Well, preppers are always talking about if the shit hits the fan, if the shit hits the fan, if the shit hits the fan. They like movies like Mad Max and Red Dawn. Well, you want to know the cities that are going to burn when the shit hits the fan at a huge level? You now know. At least you know the first ones that are going to burn. You have a map of all the cities that are going to explode. I kind of knew what they were already, but now we absolutely do know. So now we know the cities that will burn. You also know, because of COVID, which cities and states are the most oppressive and willing to use their power to oppress your freedom, specifically your freedom of movement and freedom to earn a living. Now, this is why I don't believe in a dichotomy. They all suck. Florida sucks. Texas sucks. But I'll tell you what, we're happier here in Texas, and my friends in Florida are happier than your sorry asses up in New York. And I talk to people in New York like, well, Texas is horrible, isn't it? I mean, there are people dying. No! Texas isn't horrible. We don't have people dying everywhere. You guys had more people die in New York than we had in Texas, but you believe it because you believe in something invisible that can get you. That's the state acting like an abusive boyfriend. You ever see one of those like sci-fi fiction things or whatever where like this guy grabs a girl and takes her down in a bunker, right? And he says, there was a nuclear war, man. If you go up there, you'll get irradiated and die. Only I can protect you. And he puts on like a suit. I'm going to go out and get us, stuff. And then he just goes out to a porn shop or something or whatever, and then comes back and he has this captive woman in this place where she's afraid to go out because of the boogeyman outside. That's what they've done with COVID. And again, all the states suck. All the cities suck. All the counties suck. Almost no one in this country did it right, but some did it better than others. So now you can look at where the riots happened, you can look at where the worst of the lockdowns occurred with COVID, and you can look at the voting record of the people that lived there for the last 100 years. And you'll see that most of the country isn't a shithole. That the shitholes are concentrated into a few specific areas. And there are large to medium to small cities with everything you could want that aren't one of those shitholes. All I'm suggesting is within all of that, whether that be the wilds of Idaho or the unincorporated area just a little bit north of Fort Worth, Texas, or anything like it in between, you find the best place to build the life that you want, and you go there and you do that shit. And you don't do it isolationists. I keep hearing from people like, libertarians and anarchists just want to be completely alone and they think they can be isolated. No, we don't want to be alone. We want to be left alone. And those two things are inherently different things. They're inherently different. Wanting to be left alone means simply that I want to be able to freely associate with the people that I want to associate with, and I want you to just not get in my way while I do that. Wanting to be alone means I want to move to the middle of Idaho or Montana, somewhere in the Bob Marshall wilderness with a Unabomber shack. There are people that want that, and you know what I would like them to do? I'd like them to go do that and be left alone to do that. But the majority of us, that's not what we want. We want the same things everybody else wants. We want to go to a nice restaurant once in a while and have something nice to eat. We want to have drinks with our friends. We want to occasionally listen to music. But I'm going to tell you something else too. We're like, well, there's concerts and all. You know what? Most of these assholes that do these concerts in these big cities, why the hell do you want to go see them? Why do you want to give them your money? You think they're the only people talented with music? No, they're the ones in the Hollywood elite that have been created as megastars. There's great music all across the country if that's what you want. There's great museums all across the country if that's what you want. There's great culture all across the country. There's great food all across the country. This idea that you're ever going to change things in LA is retarded. This idea that you're going to change Portland or Chicago, you do not have a place that willingly chooses to live this way for a century, all of a sudden go, gee, yeah. And all of their youth have been brought up in these indoctrination centers you guys call schools. And the youth that is the most indoctrinated, that is the future of that city, is all in these cities, the most indoctrinated youth in the country. Get your kids out of the school system, even when you move. I don't trust the school system here to not indoctrinate my grandson into social justice bullshit. Not for a tenth of a second. So not only did we get ourselves away from places, in my case, like Dallas, we got our kids, in this case our grandkids, out of that indoctrination center that I do not trust even in the suburbs of a relatively decent place, because the freaking education system is infested with a cancer that is the the ideology that has led to these problems. And it doesn't matter where you are. You can be in one of the freest parts of the country. The teachers are all interconnected like a network, and they're all freaking controlled. And they're what they teach is all controlled. And this is the last reason to get out. These flashpoint cities, the long-term plan, and there is no stopping it, is for them to expand their control into the surrounding suburbs. So you're like, well, I don't really live in LA, man. I don't really live in San Francisco. I don't really live in Seattle. I don't really live in Portland. I don't really live in Chicago. I live out here in the burbs, and leave it to Beaverland, buddy. I'm fine up here. We're not no riots up here. Our police didn't stand down up here. If the riots don't come to you, the urban takeover will. Trump, to his credit, has shut down this plan for a time to basically end the building in all these beltway suburbs around all these giant cities, to end single-family zoning. But it's going to happen. And it'll happen. If it doesn't happen from a federal level, they'll do it at a local level. And that soccer mom that lives next to you that likes to, post, a Black Lives Matter post and then lay back on the crowd like feeling cleansed because she has self-loathing, will vote for it. And the combination of the people that live in the urban shithole already and the people that feel guilty about not living in the urban shithole already will create these zonings locally, and they will destroy the autonomy of your beautiful suburb. And they will suck the resources of that suburb into that city. People have asked, why are they burning them down? I'll tell you why. because I have a building right over here and it's designed to be an outbuilding. If I want it to be a house, it's very tempting to say, well, I have a shell, let's turn it into a house. If I really want it to be a house, and I have the budget, because I steal the money from other people, that's what taxes are, then the best thing for me to do with that building, if I want it to be a house, is bring a giant excavator in and smash it down and put it in dump trucks and haul it away and build it anew. That's the plan for these cities. They will be built anew. They will be built back. They'll be built back better, right? Even if Biden's not the one that does it. And their plan is for them to suck all the resources and autonomy out of the belts of suburbs around them. Your taxes will be higher than ever and your property values will be through the floor. That's the plan. And you're not going to stop it because you know the propensity of where you live. You know what they did during COVID and continue to do to lock people down. They lock you down while they let rioters riot. You have homeless people shitting in your streets. You have a 100-year history, a 70-year history of voting for Democrats, right? And when the city burned, they didn't even bother to put the fire out, and you stay. Why? The people around you do not deserve your time, your talent, and your treasure. The new Gulch. Go elsewhere and build elsewhere. And somebody said to me today on my blog, if you can't hold the cities you have, how do you think you can hold the cities you build? You do not hold these cities. You do not have these cities. These are not your cities. You have lived in a delusionary state for decades to believe that LA is your city, that Seattle is your city. They're not. Not if you think like this. Not if you've been able to listen to me for 21 minutes now. You don't think like the people around you do. And because you live in a little suburb with a little bubble of a few people that do think the way that you do, you think, oh, we all really do think this way. They just don't know it yet. No, they know who they are. They know what they are, and they've shown you who they are. Pick the right place. Leave all your bullshit behind. Go there. Reach out to people that are local, and reach out to people through this incredible virtual connection that we have called the internet, and build anew. And we don't need to have our cities be giant. We're probably better off building a shitload of towns of about 10,000 people than we are with building a new city of 5 million. I don't want anything to do with a city of 5 million. I don't want Fort Worth to grow. One of the things I love about Fort Worth is it doesn't grow. It looks like, I moved here to the North Texas area back in 1993. And you know what Fort Worth looks like? It looks like Fort Worth looked like in 1993. That's what I don't need it to grow. And all the little towns around it, except for the subdivisions that have popped up, pretty much look the same. And if it ever, people say, well, what if it goes the other way? I will leave. I save my money, I am smart, I improve my property, I keep this to be a very valuable place, and I will cash in, and I will pick my life up and my family up, and I will go somewhere where I can have the life that I want. And people are like, well, isn't that running away? And maybe it is. People say, well, what about the Revolutionary War? Man, if everybody would have ran away, we would have lost the Revolutionary War. No! If people would have done what you advise, which is stand in the wrong place, in the wrong time, the wrong way, and fight the enemy on the enemy's ground with the enemy's methods, we would have lost the revolution. We won the American Revolution because we ran away. Because we ran away. That was the entire campaign. Attack, fuck some shit up, and run away and make them chase you. Make them expend time and treasure and blood. And then when they can't find you and can't figure out what's going on, attack them again and run away again. But we don't live there. We don't live in that time. This is not an armed conflict, and it's not an armed conflict we can win in the current political climate. Doesn't mean anybody who's a Vietnam veteran can tell you just because you can win the battle doesn't mean you can win the war if you're not clear what the objective is. We don't have a clear objective because we don't have enough people who actually want what you want to have that clear objective. But there's a shitload of people who want what you want that are already living that life that way somewhere else. I'm just suggesting, under the new Gulch, maybe you go there and you build that life. You build that better life so that you can live that better life. In the words that I've been saying since I started the Survival Podcast in 2008, if times get tough, or even if they don't.